Good afternoon, everybody. I am Attorney Danyl Patterson, candidate for the 190th, and I am introducing you to our new branded face mask because we're going to be coming to you this weekend and through to Election Day in our proper PPE, and we want to make sure that you can recognize us. So when you see the white face mask looking for the star, that's me, Danyl Patterson, candidate for the 190th. This is our final Feel Good Friday before the election. That's beyond exciting. And of course, as always, we've got to meet the people right where they are, and we've got to pivot and turn and talk about what's going on in America. So we've spent so much time during the pandemic just trying to, stay afloat in these rough and choppy waters. Well, now I know that if people were already tired and they already were suffering from COVID fatigue, now it should be all of America. But let's be real, Black America is hurting because yet another incident has occurred where we recognize that we are second, if not third class citizens. So joining me today as we actually discuss what's going on out in Minnesota is our good friend from our campaign, the streets, and from West Philly, Mr. Will Mega.
Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. Hello, Danyl.
And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Alexandra Jackson, I know, you got to be styling even out here in these COVID streets, but mostly we really want to promote that we are protecting the people. As you all know, our campaign has been very, very understanding of the vulnerabilities of our community, and we have done everything that we could to make sure that we campaign safely, that we reached our voters, but that we did so such that we didn't put them in harm's way at all. We've done our contactless food delivery. We have made sure that we've been online and processing folks' rent rebates, helping them with their pandemic unemployment assistance applications. We've made sure that you know where your polling locations are, how to get your ballots, where to send them back. We've been your go-to resource, and it has been my pleasure this entire campaign. But even more importantly, we done made a whole lot of friends. And so we're going to give some shout outs to them because that's the best part to feel good about. So we're going to start with what we don't feel so good about, or maybe we do. Okay. And that is Officer Chauvin in Minneapolis today was arrested, probably about 45 minutes before we got started. They did the news break letting us know that the arrest had occurred. And of course, immediately my timeline blew up. Oh, he got third-degree murder. That's ridiculous. That's not enough. It needs to be charged with more. They're just killing us. Those kind of things. So one of the fabulous things about candidate Danyl Patterson for state rep is that I have been attorney Danyl Patterson for the past 20 years. And as you know, even when I don't know, I go and get you the folks in the know. So, previously we brought to you the illustrious Tariq El-Shabazz, and he told you everything about what was going to go down in these streets with the new arrest practices that were going on during the pandemic. But now these are just general questions, and we kind of want to talk about our feelings. I mean, this is safe space, y'all. I told you, the kind of impact that the video, when I saw it, had on me, and really shared my personal story with you all about how, I ended up doing the kind of work that I do and how I was directly impacted, and know that therefore, but the grace of God go I, because I had been pulled out of too many cars myself, randomly stopped too many times myself, and too many different incidences that didn't result in arrest, but they could, with one false move, they could have gone all the way left. And, it's traumatizing. And it's not just traumatizing to the person that it happens to, it is traumatizing for our entire culture. Wouldn't you agree there, Will? Oh, your sound went out immediately.
I said absolutely, and we see the trauma expressed all over timelines, regardless of the medium, and especially at this time where there's really not much outreach. People are in their homes. As a human services professional, along with being an educator, We're watching the increase of spousal abuse and child abuse occurring as a result of people being home and not knowing how to cope with these rough times. And now, on top of COVID, they're compounded with negative news about just trying to live while Black.
And, so let's just think about where we were when we got to, I don't even know what day it is at this point. Was that Wednesday? I think that was Wednesday. When the events happened Tuesday, it was circulated Wednesday. Thursday was the riots that, and I like what somebody said, the Tea Party. The Tea Party occurred yesterday and resulted in arrest today. So we're going to kind of talk about the timeline of being Black during this pandemic. We're going to start even there, okay? And we're going to start there because unfortunately, and it's one of those things, I hate that I'm kind of a soothsayer of doom. I feel like that a lot. Like, even, and this, Will, when we just were, just generally meeting about what was going to be the game plan moving forward through the pandemic. My conversations with my entire team were, we're going to see this the worst, and we're going to see it the hardest. Meaning, when it hit us, it was going to be catastrophic, and we're not going to bounce back from it as a society, as a community, as quickly. And all it did for me personally was continue to invigorate me and help me to understand my role in leadership out here in West Philadelphia, but also just in Philadelphia. And as I saw from people who were coming onto our lives and commenting and questions to our phone numbers, to, onto our website, really all across the state of Pennsylvania, but even all across the country. So much so that, our lives were being picked up and followed by CNN, by Black Media News in DC and in Chicago, because nobody knew what was going on, but we knew that we were in trouble. And so to watch that, pivot and turn that we had to do, what did we see? We already had health disparities. We already knew that we had comorbidities. We already knew that we had poor access to healthcare. In West Philadelphia, we already knew that Mercy Hospital had announced their plans to close. So here we done lost Hahnemann in Center City. Now we're going to lose Mercy Hospital. And that's one of those things that I spoke out about, talking about how the State Department from the Pennsylvania State Health Department determines hospital licensing, and explaining to the community that it's not that easy to shut down a hospital and that communities needed to be aware. But now here we were in COVID, and so many of our brothers and sisters in this neighborhood ended up at Mercy trying to get treatment.
Yes.
One of the very first SEPTA workers who unfortunately passed away was denied treatment first at somewhere else and ended up at Mercy. Because remember, originally they wouldn't immediately give you a test. You had to actually have symptoms. So you guys saw what was happening when we had healthcare professionals on the show and how difficult it was just to get a test so you could get treatment, whatever that was going to be. So we knew we were going to have an even harder time. And then the governor shut everything down.
And one thing, your credit, it's interesting that you've even overlooked this. Why you just mainly out of your concern for people, is our electoral process has been completely turned upside down. The changing of the dates of elections, people trying to figure out where they're going to go to vote. So while we're experiencing the oppression or discrimination levels of COVID, we are also finding ourselves being disenfranchised in many ways as citizens, not being able to properly express our right to vote.
So we're going to talk about this week, because we're just going to talk about this week. That's where we're going to go, because even what you just said, y'all saw what happened in our state house. So we're going to talk about all of these and how it impacts us disproportionately. So there's a man, being arrested, and we're going to get to backstory a little bit later.
Okay.
And we have a police officer literally sitting on his neck with his knees, and screaming out for his long dead mother.
I can't breathe.
That he couldn't breathe. We had 3 other police officers just standing by, just standing there.
Right.
And then we had this man die, and then we had excuses.
And we
Well,
had
he didn't die on the scene. He didn't die as a result of the asphyxiation. There was stuff happened before the video. We don't know what led to all of this, and that's where we, talking about people who look like me and you, get so tired. That's where the exhaustion comes.
Yes.
You know. And then I'm gonna tell you, for me, and I said it to somebody privately when we talked about the bird watcher, Mr. Cooper.
Right.
And the apology from Amy Cooper. Now, first of all, it was that man. Now, how y'all got the same last name and you couldn't even come up with Mr. Cooper still? Like, it wasn't even like you had to think that one through.
Right.
Like,
right.
You had to think that one through. And America showed up in outrage for that incident. For the dog. No, for the dog. America showed up in outrage for that poor, defenseless dog.
Sure they did.
And the very next day, at the very similar circumstances, that we knew how quickly the police being told that a woman was being threatened by a big black man, because that's basically what Amy Cooper said, could have led to Mr. Cooper's death. And the very next day, we saw it happen. The very next day, we saw it happen.
By the death of a much, much bigger black man.
Yes. Yes. So now there's the Tea Party. So the Tea Party occurs yesterday. And so because now, you know, y'all got y'all president who, while we in the middle of a pandemic, they announced 100,000 people have died. And this man is busy signing Twitter rules because that's what's important to him, because somebody sought to actually, you know, tell you, God forbid, that the stuff that comes out his mouth is not true. So, and now what happens? So we get Twitter warnings, right? But this is the same man who told us that the very fine people were storming the Capitals and that they were out there in Lynchburg, Virginia. They were very fine people. But the folks yesterday who were looting and rioting in the streets, who were protesting in the streets, because that's the other thing. The vast majority of protesters were peaceful.
And they were
heathens that needed to be, that he let the governor know that he was willing to bring in the military to put these folks down. And meanwhile, all we are is scared. We're tired. And I think, Zahira, you got it. I'm just tired of being tired. That's where we are.
So much so that even Twitter had to check his post about being too violent in nature in terms of his response of how the military should address people rebelling against the murder.
Yes. So that's where we are. And then today, Officer Chauvin, the one who actually put his knee on the man's neck, was arrested.
Right.
And what happens?
So
social media is erupted.
Right. Social media, he's charged with third-degree murder. And then there's those of us who are lay folk like myself trying to understand the complexities between first-degree murder, second-degree murder, and third-degree murder. And why is he charged with third-degree murder and not second-degree murder, not manslaughter, not first-degree murder? We need some legal clarity on that. So what say you?
So, and you weren't the only one. So I invited some specific people on because I was on their feeds and it was just too hard for me to explain the same thing to 20 people at the same time, because that's how many people people were just like, no, that's not enough. It should be this, it should be that, it should be the other. So now, interestingly, Minnesota law and Pennsylvania law is the same.
Okay.
So that's first. That's interesting. So the three states that share these laws, the only 3 have third-degree murder, and that is Pennsylvania, Florida, and Minnesota.
Now, Danyl, can I do this real quick for the folks watching on my live, who most probably know you, but some may not. Could you explain why you're qualified to break down the difference in law? You know, what's your educational background?
Well, I am an attorney. You know, I'm a graduate of Villanova Law School, class of 2000, technology 2000, woo woo. And I have an advanced, something called an LLM degree in trial advocacy. So I am a trial lawyer. That's primarily what I do. I actually go to court. And I practice in civil rights. I talked about this previously this week, that actually when I started out practicing in civil rights, that I was actually doing police brutality cases.
So this type of case would be right up your alley.
Once it got to the civil side. So, but in order to get to the civil side, you need to understand the criminal side. This is, you know, so what would happen is when later on, when George Floyd's family get $20 million, the case would be mine then. But right now, when they're trying to figure out what to try the person for and all those things, it's not. But as a result, I have to be very familiar with the underlying case, the underlying action. Okay. Yeah. So this is, yes, right up my alley. And so there are 3 states that actually have the depraved indifference murder, and that's what it's called. 3rd degree murder is depraved heart indifference. That's what so that means that you have acted, if you're the person who did the murder, committed the murder, you have acted in such an indifference to humankind and the possibility of loss of life that it gives rise to murder. Okay. Now the next level up would be 2nd degree murder, which is what we call felony murder. So felony murder means that it's murder that's in commission of a felony. And to give you an example, George Zimmerman was charged with felony murder because, so this is because these are cases people know. George Zimmerman was charged with felony murder because the argument was that it was the commission of the felony in following Trayvon, and that was the felony, should not have followed. Then there's the highest level, and that is 1st degree murder, or more importantly, capital murder. Okay, so capital murder is absolutely premeditated. You woke up today and decided, I'm going to go kill whoever. You done put a plan together. It was, you know, and then of course, underneath 3rd degree murder is the manslaughters. And the manslaughters are, you know, me and Will got into it. We were drinking, it escalated, and I killed him. I didn't think about it. There wasn't malice aforethought. It wasn't a plan. There was no felony. We got into it, and I killed him. And a lot of times those 3rd degree, those manslaughters come from, I might have hit you, or, you know, like people get shot in the leg and then they don't know they hit the femoral artery and bleed out. So then that becomes, you know, it was manslaughter because y'all were in the gun battle kind of thing.
Right.
Now, why this is important is because people don't understand that up until the time that the prosecution rests their case, the degree of any charge can change. So meaning that until the time that we get to court and the prosecutor has presented all their evidence and you're standing there and it's like, this is all the evidence that the state has, this is everything that we have against Officer Chauvin, and then they can say, you know what, we would like to have this case amend the complaint for charges to 1st degree murder. Now let me explain why this is
move forward. It's not done until it's done. This is the initial charge, basically, with options to change.
Yes, absolutely. But this is the thing. You got to charge them at some point. So what you don't want to do is overcharge, and then you can't prove your case. Because they're still, so it's this. This is what they could have did. They could have said, we still investigating, which is what they tried. We still investigating. But now you got the Tea Party out there. Right. When are you going to get an arrest? When are you going to get an arrest? Because now y'all know, let's be honest. If it was me and you, we would have got arrested that day when the video came out. Okay, right. Let's be real. Okay, me and you would have got arrested right then, and they wouldn't have cared about all of this. But they also got to make sure these charges stick. And if you, and I'm gonna give y'all stuff that we know. I like to give popular frame of reference. So I know I can't be the only person that watch Law and Order and Law and Order Special Victims and Law and Order Criminal Intent and Law and Order Trial by Jury and every other thing that say Law and Order, right? I can't be the only one on this feed, right? And I'm sure that, you know, y'all done seen McCoy, because that was my favorite one. All the other people was just extra. McCoy would get up and he would just tell whatever underling he had of the week and just charge him. You gotta get him arrested. And then they're just trying to get him held. And they know that they're still going to keep investigating. They know that they're still going to keep looking. The case is not dead, but we got to get him off the streets.
Right.
That's kind of what happened here. We know from the video that there's enough to arrest him. Alex, you have a question? Y'all know I can't see. You know I don't speak emoji con either. So I see a hand raised. I think that's a hand raised. Alex, please write out your question. Sorry. So this is the floor, not the ceiling. This is the first part of this, because again, what did we learn just in the last 8 hours? So actually, Will, you were the one who told me this. Yes. So what was it about this that struck you most interesting lately?
Well, I would say, two things stood out to me. And it's interesting that you mentioned that the law for Pennsylvania is the same as Minnesota, because there was the Pennsylvania state legislator Martina White. I don't know if you're familiar with her. She's a Republican. Mm-hmm. And what stood out to me was all the people, the protesters surrounding the officer's home. Mm-hmm. Martina White put forth some legislation where she wanted to create a certain level of amenity for any police officer in Pennsylvania that discharged their weapon.
Yes.
And so when I'm looking at the rebellion and the people at his home, I'm saying, wow, so do they not have this same law? So that's the first thing that stood out. The second thing that stood out just seemed to be the uncomfortability with people on my timeline thinking everything was, that it was fixed. Oh man, the man is doing his thing because it's only third degree. And they're thinking, well, if it's third degree, it should be easy for him to get off. One thing I saw written was, oh, well, he should be home by this afternoon. And they're going to give him bail and he'll be able to leave.
Well, now, bail is a different animal. So we're going to talk about that next too, okay? So specifically what I want to talk about was earlier today, you gave me information that Officer Chauvin actually knew Mr.
Oh, yes, they knew one another. They used to be co-workers, providing security at a bar there, and the owner of the bar, when she began to see what was taking place, and ironically, she just so happened to have sold the bar about 3 months prior to this, and she says she recognizes that she knows both of them. And she went to the press and mentioned, hey, not only do I know both of them, both used to work for me years ago, and they overlapped. So they worked there at the same time for a period. And she also mentioned that the officer had a history of being pretty quick in terms of like how he responded to patrons. And she specifically said that he was very quick to mace people.
Mm-hmm. So now the reason I wanted to bring that up is because we're talking about, Zahira, no, it was stated that they didn't know each other, but now evidence is coming forth that they did. And this is why I want to talk about this third degree murder charge. And when I was talking about, McCoy telling you just charge him, because they're going to keep investigating. So this young lady who came forward to the media, I'm sure she's already given a statement to the prosecutor's office. I am sure that they are already looking at the other people that worked with him at the prosecutor's office. There's a reason. It wasn't just Black Twitter that found all the arrest for the police officer. Okay, and I mean not the arrest, who found all the complaints against the police officer. Right. So they're working on that case. I am sure of it. But those things, that's what would make this premeditated. For all we know, they fighting about a joint. Like, we really don't know. They could have bad blood about a joint because, you know, George Floyd's fiance was white. That might have been the joint that Chauvin wanted. I mean, we don't know. He might have had a problem with the fact that Floyd.
Right.
You don't know. But based on the fact that they knew each other, I am sure that the prosecution's office is trying to figure out whether or not there was some premeditation in this action. It may have came off in the heat of depraved indifference, but it may be that he had malice aforethought, that in his mind, in his heart, because that's what it is, in your heart, you have such ill will towards another person that you would deign to kill them. It's not just you went out and made a plan, but this is the opportunity that presented itself for you to kill that person. Now it's premeditated.
You are when you mention the possibilities of him may having an issue with him dating white women. The first thing that just came to my mind was Jack Johnson. Are you familiar with the former boxer Jack Johnson?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. They created a law because he dated white women that,
mm-hmm.
that you're not allowed to transport white women across state lines.
Yes, it was a violation, so that way they could make it federal instead of making it a state case.
And so, I mean, that's just kind of, I'm thinking about the mentality of a person who would have issue with him dating white women, and even how our system has a history of implementing something, in this case, a law, to prevent that action.
And let's think about something else that's going on out there in Minnesota. So let's talk about Minnesota right now, because Minnesota, they've been doing the thing. They done flipped from red to blue. They done got two, very active female Congress people that Trump can't stand.
For our listeners who don't know red to blue, for our listeners who don't know what you mean by red to blue, what do you mean?
They were a Republican bastion because they had gerrymandered Minnesota such that Minneapolis, which is where all the people of color live, couldn't get enough districts. They couldn't get enough people close together to be able to get the vote.
Yes.
So as a result, to make impact. And so what happened? They were able to flip those seats. The state legislature is actually Democratic. For the first time in 8 years, I'm sorry, I don't know. Let me not look it up. Is Democratic. So that they're a hot button out there. And who doesn't like stuff like that? Who doesn't like, we in Pennsylvania, let's talk about who don't like stuff like that. Right. So let's talk about Brian Sims now. Okay, let's talk about the state representative. So we sending little fishies to go swim with the sharks up there in Harrisburg. That's just what I'm gonna say. We sending little fishies, like we sending little goldfish to go swim with the sharks.
Right.
Because in Harrisburg, they were so determined that they were going to get their legislation through to get all the businesses open that they wanted open, to get all those waivers through, that they were willing to put life and limb of everybody else in danger, in jeopardy.
You just also brought another case to my mind. Muhammad Noor. He was a black officer. He's a Somalian American black officer who shot the white woman in Minneapolis. Mm-hmm. And he got charged with third-degree murder in a manslaughter charge, and they gave him 12 and a half years.
Now, so then people ask me about what's going on with the other three officers that were standing around, because they were now. They did not participate in the action directly. Theoretically, they could also get depraved heart indifference because they didn't stop it. And as officers trained, they should have stopped it.
Okay.
There's also the fact that I'm gonna just tell you from a civil perspective, we had the EMTs arrive and did not attempt to resuscitate him.
Oh my God.
So, and that goes against the protocols of medicine, something called standard, the medical standards practice. That's not what you do when you arrive on the scene.
Right.
Okay. So now, with the other, at least the other charge, the other officers, those are at least involuntary manslaughter charges coming. And at this point, I am sure that they're investigating the relationship between the officers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if the one dude is macing everybody and doing whatever else, they're investigating the folks who were on his team, who responded to him with this call. The blue wall does have cracks. The blue wall does have cracks. And it's hard. It's hard to find them. It does seem like always a unified front. But at the same time, there are many, and I see it every day, all up and down my timeline with the brothers and sisters in talking about Philadelphia. They're so disgusted, they don't know what to do. They were the first to speak out.
So let me ask you this, because that brings on another thought of mine. You just got endorsed by the Guardian Civic League, which is a Philadelphia Black police officers organization.
Yes.
Right? And as a candidate and a Black woman living in Philadelphia who understands the complexities of police brutality and misconduct, but then also one who's going to be a legislator, how do you balance those two worlds? And what can a legislator do in a scenario like this? For example, if you were currently the elected official, how would you approach this right now if it happened in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia, in your district?
Well, so as a legislator, my job is to make sure that we have fair and adequate laws and it can be applied fairly across the board. So that's first. So that means that if anything, officers have a heightened standard because they're trained professionals to react in certain situations. And don't forget, their duty is to protect and serve. We always need to remember that. Their duty is to protect and serve. And that's what the Guardian Civic League is actually all about. They are about holding other officers responsible and making sure that they act with the integrity that the badge offers and affords. They've spoken out against the unfairness. They've spoken out against what Nesby does. Why they spoke out and they spoke in support of Krasner actually adjudicating those officers in those fixed cases. They supported having those fixed cases be relitigated or to be retried or to have those folks released. So that's what the Guardian Civic League is about. Don't forget that they're the guardians, meaning they are watching to make sure that the police are in line with what they're supposed to be doing, which is protecting and serving. So I am very, very proud to have received that endorsement. So that's first. Okay. Now, as far as legislation, the legislation has to be, so what Martina did, that's ridiculous. Okay. We cannot shield our officers. We can't not know. Is that right?
Double negative.
Okay, I'm like, that's not right? We can't not know. It is unfair to the public to not know. It's unfair to the public.
Still double negative.
Yeah, I can't fix it right now. To be unaware of whether or not these officers have discharged their weapons. If there's a situation where because once they've discharged their weapon, there's supposed to be an investigation and they take the weapon. Okay. Why can't the public know that officer has discharged a weapon and is now going through their mental health recertification? Right. Because that's the other thing. I don't care who you are, you discharge your weapon, you are traumatized.
Yes.
You need to pull back and step back. And we need to be sure that our officers are getting the mental health that they need, just like we work with our veterans to get the mental health that they need. So the legislation can't be such that we are seeking so hard to protect one organization or one group of individuals to take away the rights of others. Nobody is at a heightened level of protection in this country. including the President of the United States.
Now, speaking of the President of the United States, I just briefly watched, really briefly watched a press conference there. And the woman speaking on behalf of the case and where it was in its process mentioned that they are being watched by the President of the United States. How does the President of the United States, she mentioned that she got off the phone with him, and I want to say that the Attorney General, may have been someone else, but she mentioned very specifically that he's involving himself in this case, not as a critique of him, but as a matter of fact, and that they are in contact with the President of the United States. How does the President of the United States get involved in a case?
Well, in actuality, if you don't forget that Obama actually got involved in the case in my mind is a blank.
Washington, D.C.?
No, it was up north as well.
Okay.
Missouri, St. Louis.
Okay.
St. Louis case. Obama got actually involved in that one as well, and that was he sent Eric Holder to actually do an investigation, because the next thing that theoretically could happen is, depending upon what the charge is, it can be heightened and become a federal charge. But that's not what Trump is trying to do. Let's be real, okay? That is not what Trump is trying to do. He's not trying to make sure that this is, redesignated as a hate crime and therefore gets a heightened standard. Right. This is not what he's trying to do. He's making sure that he plays to his base, that he is protecting the police, and he is the law and order president, and that these hoodlums and heathens versus the very fine people that he protects. And I still call it Lynchburg, Virginia, even though I know it was Charlottesville, but it's still Lynchburg, Virginia, because they went down there for a lynching. Okay.
Yeah, the president is calling people who are rebelling thugs. Speaking of Holder, again, the more you talk, the more things come to my mind. So if we recall, Holder did a national search and investigation of police departments across the country.
Yes.
You have that, and they found quite a, they were searching to see whether or not there is history or evidence of
disparities in the training, because that there's an implicit racial bias in the training of police officers across the United States.
And then we've had that most recent person who did the study of police officers' social media and how often they've posted things that were derogatory, negative, or racist in nature.
Yes.
Is there a possibility that the attorneys for the family go and pull some of that information to see if they can get some background information on this officer to see if he's popped up in any of that?
Well, that's all for the civil suit. And so interestingly, I was actually personally involved. I was actually a witness in a case that, I was a witness, right? This dates all the way back to when I was in law school. It's so crazy. I won't tell you the ins and outs of it, but actually was determined that those social media postings, because at the point we didn't even have social media, there was no Facebook, but we did have, remember AOL Instant Messenger? That it was determined that your instant messengers, your Yahoo Messenger, that was actually all discoverable materials that could be held against you in court. Yes, your inbox, baby, your inbox is popping. That is evidence that you can, I just want you to know, your inbox that's popping is actually, and don't worry about it, Will, because Facebook owns that. So they have archived it. You may have deleted it, but it is still there. So we learned all of that in that case. Why? Because actually one of my classmates was sending messages to a professor, and they were communicating through AOL Instant Messenger. And when whatever happened, it was, whenever, I'll tell you about it later, but whatever happened, the part that actually was, went to the Third Circuit and then to the Supreme Court was all about whether or not it was discoverable evidence. So since 2004, it has been discoverable evidence in Pennsylvania.
I have one question, because we are on social media, and it is Feel Good Fridays, and I feel like we're being very litigious in the conversation because it requires that. But since it's Feel Good Friday, did whatever happened actually happen?
So there is litigation that precludes me from actually discussing that any further.
Say less, literally.
You have to innocent stuff like that.
These are interesting times. I in this case, I mean, you have a mayor calling for the prosecution of the officers, and much of me is telling me that he's very interested in having his city to stop being, burning down, right?
Yes. And I'm putting this over here so we come back to Hanif because it's been sitting there. We just talking. They going down in the comments. I don't know. Give me some comments from what's going on in your end from, folks watching you. But I saw this and I want to make sure I come back to Brother Hanif.
Okay. No, you go ahead. I got to look at mine because I haven't even looking at.
Because it's interesting conversation. So okay. Hanif says they are all co-conspirators. I know black men doing life sentences for the same act. Just being there had nothing to do with the murder. The mere fact they arrived with the killer had them doing life sentences. And Hanif, I'd rather address that when I said that they'll get arrested on manslaughter and banged up to the original charge of the top charge, which is the Braveheart indifference in this instance. The likelihood that they all get charged with now first-degree murder will really depend on their malice aforethought, their actually intent when they arrived. So if they just come in because they were police responding, and they may end up with a depraved heart indifferent. But all the fact that he can't stand whatever, all the scenarios that we done made up, that's a little bit different. Rhonda Hill Wilson is in here. For those of you who don't know, that's the fabulous voice that you hear. Anybody checking in on WURD in the mornings and in the afternoons, we have fabulous commercials. And Rhonda Hill Wilson is our social justice reformer and has been one for 40 years. I had to think about it. Like, wait a minute, how old am I? So 40 years. Has been as such, and she just asked in their arbitration contract, Rhonda, I don't know what the question was to. That was why I came back to it. What part of the conversation were we in? Is that the arbitration contract that says that they can't give the explanation on who discharged their gun publicly? Is that what you were talking about at that point? Let me know, Rhonda. So now the other thing about all of this that gets even crazier, okay, is that the sentencing. For us, it's emotional, right? You want him charged with the highest level of anything because you think there's a difference in the time, and there's actually not. The only difference is first-degree murder, which is capital murder. So that's a murder you would die for. That's the only difference. Depraved heart indifference and felony murder both have the same sentencing guidelines in Minnesota, which is 25 years to natural life. Okay, they have the same. So that means that it's emotional for us because we want him charged to the umpteenth of whatever. Right. But in actuality, it's really about what the evidence can bear through to get a conviction.
So Danyl, since you said the laws are pretty much the same here when it comes to first, second, and third degree murder as they are there. Would it also be the same in terms of sentencing, given that in Pennsylvania life means life, or do you know whether or not their sentencing guidelines are different?
No, in Pennsylvania, life does not mean natural life. Then you can get possibility of parole. Okay. There is possibility of parole. And it's parole. Life is actually 22 something years, and you can get paroled at like 12. You can get paroled. But there is also, now the other thing that they do is the sentencing guidelines. So y'all have been to a sentencing? Anybody ever been to a sentencing? When you go to a sentencing, I can't even get on the jury. They always kick me off the jury. I almost got on the jury once. It was my first day practicing law, right? I don't know how the first day you practice law, you get chosen for you got picked for jury duty. And Shaka Johnson was the attorney. I'll never get this, but he wasn't the attorney. He was the co-counsel. It was a pro se litigant. He was defending himself. And Shaka Johnson was stuck with him to help him at the defense table. And I don't know who was on the prosecution side, but I remember that it was Judge Lineberger. And the judges in Pennsylvania don't really pick the jury like their tip staff does, helps the lawyer. So I was like literally juror number 2. I was so excited. They put me up in the box. I was like, yes.
It was like
and it was this young, good-looking brother. Okay, there was the defendant. He was a young, good-looking brother, and this was him asking questions. And everybody else on the jury was like 100 and white. So it was like this young black girl who's like 23. And like 100-year-old white people, right? And dude might have been 30, but I mean, I remember when I walked in, I was like, damn, that's because he was fully suited and things. So I was like, oh, who that?
Okay. Enough already.
Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm like, having a moment. Anyway, so his version of voir dire is when they test the jury. So he was talking to me like this, literally leaning on the jaw, like, sis, you know how it is. Sometimes, things get a little bit heated, you and your man, then they just go there. You ain't mean for it too. And I was sitting there like, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And so he was like, jury accepted. And then Shaka called him over and he's like talking that, and he's like, no, I want the young sis. Yeah, let her on there. I was like, yes, I'm so excited. I was like, I'm on the jury. I was so excited. Judge Lineberger took the bench. And he goes, how you doing, Miss Patterson? I was like, and he was like, so welcome to the bar. We are so happy to have you join us as a colleague, but you're not going to be my juror. And then put me off. Well, basically, the dude came home over in Overbrook Park. Dude came home and his wife was in the bed with his friend, and he threw them both out the window. That's what the case was about.
Which one did he throw out the window first? Because I live in
Overbrook. But that was basically what the case was about.
Wow.
He just knew that I was going to understand the situation.
That's West Philly. West Philly.
And that's probably the other thing he saw, because of course, they asked for which city. I'm like, West Philly, born and raised, baby. Because they asked me what other area of the city have you ever lived in. That was the craziness. Anyway, so that was one time. Yeah, I'll tell you about Feel Good Friday when I almost got to the jury.
So when I was, the last time I was in the jury pool of people that they were interviewing, I'm sitting next to this man. He's probably about 20, 25 years older than me. So, you sit there all day, right? So they eventually brought us into the courtroom, and then they were taking people in the back. When we sat there, and he pointed out every person that they were going to pick, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, how did you get there? He said, I've been coming here for a long time. He says, it's my experience, they get the 12 stupidest people that they can get. And to me, they look like the 12 stupidest people. And they can't do a pick them. I was like, okay. But yeah, normally I never get picked. I think him and I, it may have been 3. We were, of those people, I guess it was probably about 60 people in that waiting room area. It was only 3 black men.
And now, I'm glad you actually showed up and served, Will, because one of the things that is actually part of my platform is I talk about this all the time, that we are discriminated against and unfairly permitted from serving on juries. Right. Very specifically, in the state of Pennsylvania, if you have any conviction for any crime whose sentence is for 1 year and 1 day or greater, the sentence guideline, not you actually served it. So you could go steal diapers 3 different times and actually have a conviction that would prevent you from serving on a jury for the rest of your life. So that can be 19 or 20, and you can never serve. Now I know people say all the time, all the time is that you, people don't want to serve on juries anyway. Okay, right. Here's the thing. When you go down to the CJC, the people on trial look like me and you, Will. When you go over to City Hall and there are civil complaints here in Philadelphia, people getting malpractice upon, they look like me and you, Will. The people losing their arms in a welding accident or a truck accident, they look like me and you, Will. Yeah. The people who are taking bad drugs because they just did what their doctor told them, they look like me and you, Will. And you know what? Who's not on the jury? In 2019, I picked 9 juries in the city of Philadelphia, 9. And I saw not one black man out of 9 panels of 40. Not one. Because when those jury questionnaires came home, they told you immediately, one of the questions is, have you ever been convicted of a crime? And you are automatically disqualified. This is something that I profess to you that I will get done in my first year in office as state rep, because we've already got support from the governor's office. This doesn't even need to be legislation. This can just be advocated for and signed into law and changed as to who can serve on a jury in the state of Pennsylvania. It's not hard to do. You just need a legislator who's willing to do it, to advocate for this.
So most times you need other reps to sign off. Is this something you can do without having reps to sign off?
We already have the support. I've already been, talking to other reps who are social justice reformists. I believe we already have the votes, and if not, this actually can happen through executive order and advocacy. Just like Movita Harrell Johnson was able to bring those monies back for gun violence quickly, I'll be able to get this done for the people of Philadelphia, for the people of Pennsylvania quickly, so that we can start to have juries that look like us. Because there's no way in the world in Philadelphia, a minority city, that I can have an all-white jury. And I have had it happen more than 2 or 3 times in the same year. Oh, Prue, I just want you to know, this is Will Mega. Will Mega Speaks. Everybody just knows Will, so I just, and he didn't think to put up his thing down the bottom that said he's Will Mega. I don't even know why my thing didn't come up and say Danyl Patterson. We just struggling over here today.
I don't even know what a thing down the bottom is.
It's supposed to be a banner that tells you this.
Oh, okay.
we were so excited to get started because it's Feel Good Friday. And
right.
And I'm gonna tell y'all, so secretly Will been trying to get on here forever, but I said I'm gonna save you for last because I knew he was gonna come with the pain with interesting questions. So that's something to feel good about.
Our people in West Philadelphia, we are the Plateau's own. The Plateau is in West Philadelphia, born and raised. It's important for us to have access to this information. And, I'm always using my social media platforms on my website and things of that nature to do my advocacy as an activist and as an educator. And I just wanted folks to have access to you, but even more so, because a lot of some of the people that come across my platform, whether they be my fraternity brothers or my students, need to see a very accomplished Black woman from their neighborhood.
Yes, that's why I stay here.
Yes, and so that's one of my primary reasons. I don't want all of my students thinking that in order to be successful, you need to be Michael Jordan. And so instead of them only watching The Last Dance, I needed them to focus on the next election. So we have, today's Friday, so Friday, Saturday.
4 wake up.
What's that look like for you? What's your experience been? And tell us, could you list these endorsements? You have quite a few endorsements. I want to know the names of the individuals and organizations that have endorsed you.
Okay, so we're coming up to our last 4 wake ups, and what I'm going to ask all of you is to go over to vote190.com, go over to vote190.com, sign a pledge to vote, sign up to join the movement. We're going to be doing additional phone banking. We're going to be doing our car rovers. We're going to be screaming to the heavens and anybody who will listen to get them out to vote on June 2nd if they haven't already, to vote for Danyl Patterson. Go to On the Road with Joe. You will find me at button number 17 and help to put Patterson in position. Now, what we're going to be doing now, let's talk about first the endorsements, because you asked a very specific question. Okay, you asked me, so I actually had to get the list, because I don't know. Like I get to talking about other stuff, and so I got a list, y'all. Y'all know I'm usually not reading. It's a trial lawyer in me. They tell me don't get out here reading.
I see that legal pad.
Yes, a whole legal pad. Wait a minute, with a whole bunch of stuff. Yep, a legal pad full of stuff. Okay, so and actually, and everybody has to know because they've been watching me now since March the 17th. Our very first episode was Friday, March 17th. We were ready for this here thing. Okay, so first, I am pleased to announce, because the official announcement video came out today, that I received the endorsement of the Black clergy.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the newest endorsement because I just got it. I just got the official endorsement in Word. I got it last night, but it was officially announced today. You
Black
already told us? Huh? Yes, you already told us about, and that's important because we need to have a faith-based initiative as a part of our legislation that we're pushing forward. And for me, it's about an interfaith, faith-based coalition. Here in West Philadelphia, it's always been church central, but we've got so many Islamic leaders who have really made an impact. We've got actually Hindu and Buddhist members in our community who've been able to make an impact, to mentor, to give us spiritual guidance, and we need them to all come together to spread their influence and their just general idea of sisterhood and brotherhood. So I am so pleased to have this endorsement as we continue to unite our people, understanding that what unites us is so much greater than what divides us. We have the Men of Mill Creek. They were actually my first endorsement down the bottom. That's where my family is from. When they first came to Philadelphia, they landed over there at 43rd and Brown. And that's where my mom and dad were. That's right, but I'm so West Philly. So 43rd and Brown, they were over there on Powelton Avenue. So we've never really been far. They're the only places I've ever lived that my family in this city have ever been is in West Allegheny, looking at 32nd and Allegheny, over there on Spangler Street, up that down to Dobson Mills. I remember it when it was still the factory that my aunt and uncle worked at, and when my whole family worked at the Pet Boys factory over there and hung out at the 32nd Street pub.
Tell us the endorsements.
I'm sorry. So I get excited when I start talking about Mill Creek and things. So we went over to Mill Creek. So the Men of Mill Creek endorsed me. We're going to continue that partnership, making sure that our community has direct centers and influence in our community, really focusing on the young men there. We have endorsements from She Can Win, which is a women-centric organization who specifically identifies women that can be leaders, not just locally, but on the national stage, to support them through the infancies of training them to run, as well as every office that they seek. My brothers and sisters from DKOD, you see them all on here, different kind of Democrat, P2. So we got to have economics and education. And we're promoting our professionalism out in our community. Different kind of Democrat is really focused on making sure that we have shared economics and shared justice in our community. We have actually been personally endorsed as well by the former state rep, Movita Harrell Johnson, who really would just like to see the continuation of the gun initiative here in our community. Specifically, what she said is that she's already identified monies to come back into our community. She wants to make sure that they don't get split up somewhere else, because the 190th is the community that has been hardest hit by gun violence, according to the stats that are being borne out. We've been endorsed as well by the members of the Elite 30 Association, and that's very important because that means that our brothers and sisters, they've organized 30 different association organizations that have been working on small levels for big change. And by working with them, I plan to be able to unite us further, bring resources back to the community, and uplift those organizations that have been doing the hard work with the boots on the ground so they can get to the next level. We're not recreating the wheel. We're actually making the wheel just run smoother so that we can get even more done and reach more bodies. And these are all the folks that came together to help us to distribute food with the Share Food program, Frontline Dads, AOK Foundation. There have just been so many of us. They introduced us to the brothers and sisters of No More and No Mo and No Met. So that's just all so exciting. And so many nonprofits, they can't actually officially give you an endorsement. Obviously, they're nonprofits, so they're politically disengaged, but their memberships have pledged to work with us to continue to unite and advance the initiatives for the people in the 190th. Okay. And since we're over there, I just got to thank all of these folks that have been on the show. Like I told you, it's look, we've been at this thing since March 17th.
Right. What about that huge endorsement you got?
So, that's the one that everybody told me I wasn't going to get. They did. When I started this thing out, they said there is no way that you are going to get a labor union endorsement. And not only did I get one, not only did I get two, I actually got three. So the Brothers and Sisters of Laborers District Council, they identified me as their choice for the 190th. They are only in 3 different state rep races. And I am the only one who is a challenger who was endorsed, as a matter of fact. So one is an open seat and the other is the incumbent, a long-time incumbent.
They're also known as Local 332, correct?
So they're actually 2 different things. So then Local 332 also specifically endorsed me. So we have Ryan Boyer and then Sam Staton Jr. They're 2 different organizations and you never can confuse them. But also the Brothers and Sisters of the Building Trades Union, members of AFL-CIO, also gave me an endorsement.
Let's go.
That's so exciting. So, I mean, these things were huge. These were huge. And because of all of the endorsements that I was able to secure so quickly, we were able to bring so many friends to provide you with resources. I think that what has been my greatest honor and pleasure, and I think which has distinguished me from everybody else, and not just in this race, and that's in any race that's going on locally, is that I've been able to identify a talent pool to answer pressing and immediate concerns. And if I can do that now and I'm not elected, imagine what I can do with some resources.
Right.
Imagine what I can do with some resources. So many people told me across the state, they were getting their information. Well, I'm gonna just go over there with that lady because she got a show at 3:30. And it turned into a whole show, like with a production team and everything. So
Danyl, week before last, we were giving out food from the campaign office.
Yes.
And I can't remember the name of the organization. If Hanif is still watching, maybe he can text in. But there was some brothers who came down to assist, and they were part of an organization of a formerly incarcerated community.
Yes. I actually like this. I have the acronym, but we're going to get the name together directly. But no, so, and that's important. That's very, very important because you need to reach everyone right where they are. And it also shows that together we do better. That's been my motto all along, together that we will do better. And so what we needed was to identify people who could help us to do door-to-door deliveries, give out these foods. We're trying to stop, with our food insecurities. So, and this is the thing, I have a whole plan to end our food insecurities. What we know is that we need to increase the SNAP budget by close to $17 billion just to keep it where it is right now, at the levels it is right now. And we know, based on how people didn't get food now, that that these food insecurities are going to last, 5 to 7 years.
Right.
So that means that we've got to find sustainable methods of making sure that our people in our community are fed. And the answer is not every week give out food. The answer is we can give out some food because we can't give it out forever. We can give out some food, but we got to make it so you can grow food. We got to make sure that you can have access to food. We have to make sure that your food stamps are able to be used at the little local produce stands. We've got to make sure that we get some more markets in our community. We've got to make sure that there is no price gouging on deliveries for our seniors so they can have access to the food. And we have plans for all of that, and it's so exciting. But right now, NOMO, it was PA FAC. That's what it was. Thank you, Zahira. It was the young men that were from PA FAC, the part of NOMO, was out here with us last week and this week as well. I want to thank all.
I think it's very interesting and very rare. It's not often that you have the police or police organization PAC endorse a candidate, and also the formerly incarcerated agree on the same candidate, right? So there's some type of synergy where the community is saying, Yeah, this is the one. That's what I'm picking. The police, the clergy, the unions, the street, the hood, the men's organizations, the barbershops. You know, you got the one of the largest barbershops in West Philadelphia that's on board there, that's constantly doing anti-violence.
Yes, our folks down at Philly Cups have been amazing in our community, and I am very happy to have them on board with us as well. So many of our local businesses are excited about the opportunity to bring more economics, community-based microeconomics to our community. That is so exciting. But you know, we coming on the end. We could talk forever. We really can, because it's exciting. This is the exciting part of the campaign. But I got to give some thanks out there. Okay.
Before you give your thanks, I'm gonna say one last thing.
Yes, sir.
You thought I ain't know nothing about coffee. I showed proved to you today.
Oh, yes, you did. Yes, you did. Oh, yes, you did. I was like, what? Mint shot of what? But you ordered a medium coffee. I want y'all to know, people, he went to Starbucks and ordered a medium coffee.
That's right. That was my rebellion against Starbucks. I didn't want to completely assimilate into Starbucks trying to tell me that a grand day and a 9 grand day or whatever. I needed to keep. Around here, we call it a medium.
Well, that's okay, because as soon as our local places open back up, I'll be back on 52nd Street getting my coffee, okay? Because that's what I do. I'm about walking up and down the neighborhood, but you got to go where they got to drive through these days.
But you do know that Starbucks is in your district.
I do know it is.
Yes. So we still shop within district.
Oh, I know, but still, I like to shop small.
Okay.
Starbucks gonna be fine. Starbucks gonna be real fine. But so let me just give some thank yous, because I had to get a list together. That's what I said. I had to get a list. Okay, so bear with me, y'all. Okay, because I want to personally thank so many. So I have got to thank Miss Alexandra Jackson. Thank you. These are folks who all came on the show. Okay, these are folks who came. They made their voices heard. They provided resources, education, information, viewpoint, understanding, community perspective, and we love you and thank you for it. So Sam Lewis, he is from the Fawcett Foundation, right around the corner, giving us a little piece of history. The same was with Brother Barry, who is our retired Battle of the Bulge vet, who told us why it is important for us to vote or die, that he was willing to die for it, to give you this right. At 90 plus years old, he made sure that he got on board to tell us about it. One of the last World War II veterans from our community, in our community. That's some fabulousness. Reuben Jones, I've got to thank the frontline dads out there. Khalil Thomas from Easy Stick, who provided resources when nobody else would test us. Not only was he testing us, he was coming out to our neighborhood, to our doors to do it. This is before even we had the Black Doctors Consortium. So I thank you for being able to give us resources when nobody else would. Ricky Duncan and the folks over at NOMA, who've given us new resources to partner with children. Pat McCoy, who gave us partnerships identifying micro businesses, economic advantages, and training institutions for our brothers and sisters in the barber and beauty salons. Vanessa Lowry Brown came on to share her experiences and talk about what it's not to be able to gain access to health care. Imam Jamil Abdullah, who came on offering us the endorsement and support of the brothers and sisters down at Sister Claire Muhammad. I've got to thank Imam Bilal as well as Imam Nuruddin. Thank you so much. I will see you all tomorrow because we'll be giving out food down at the masjid. I've got to thank Sherman Toppin, came on providing us with real estate guidance, how to actually get your wills and trust established and handle these properties in this middle of this pandemic. Talking about Charmaine Thompson, who gave us, our kids, an opportunity to get some summer jobs, even if they're only virtually. New experience. David Foster, more real estate insight, talked to us about finances, how to get our credit scores up, and gave us new resources. Kamari Ellis talked to the Finance Rebel, has been on so many times letting us know how we can get the SBA grants, what we need to do about our credit, what is a micro business, what happened with the PPP. Dr. A.V. Hankins, a Black doctor and a Black FACP, means she's at the pinnacle of her medical career. from our community, for our community, been fighting for our community, doing the telehealth screenings for COVID in our communities, and letting us know that together we're going to do better. We've got to treat this as the health crisis in our community that it is. I've got to thank Deneen Pashukis Waisley. I finally got her name right, been friends with her for years. I can't say the whole thing, but she came to us all the way from Tampa Bay, Florida, to tell us about the PPP and to explain the EIDL and actually help people do those applications to get them processed. Okay, now, Shauna Collins coming in, talking to us about the EIDL and the hard credit pools. Tad Smith, formerly my opponent, who came on and actually endorsed me. Tad has been doing this out in the community almost as long as I have. Also another veteran. He was on the door knocking, on the hand-to-hand combat.
Nice.
I've got to thank the brothers and sisters, of TCRC and John D. Harrell, who helped us, again, with food delivery and distribution. Charlotte Greer Brown from the Elite 30 Association coming on to really talk to us about the state of emergency here in Philadelphia and gave solutions, not just additional problems in our community, and providing me out to be a part of your panel. Of course, the infamous and illustrious Tariq El Shabazz explaining to us what's going on in our city as it results to criminal justice and reform.
Nice.
Zahira Ahmad, who came on to talk to us about the health disparities and just general fabulousness from DKOD. Ava Adames, who talked to us about mental health and physical health during this process. Nikki Robinson, who talked to us about women sustaining ourselves during, the pandemic. Dr. Angela Black, who came on and talked to us how to keep ourselves emotionally well in the age of the superwoman, having to be in the middle of a pandemic. And I can't forget Ashley Schuler Tobin of Big Brothers and Sisters of Wilmington, who came on and talked to us about food insecurities and how to resolve them. So those are just the folks who came on the show. These are not the folks who who provided the input, the guide, right, the initial resources and the research. But you know who I really got to thank, y'all?
Who's that?
I got to thank you.
Oh, that's great.
So, I have a team that is an all-star team. And I was so blessed to have you all. So I got to start all the way back to the beginning of the campaign when it just was, a glimmer, because we had a problem in the 190th net. We needed to solve it. And Bill Cobb said,
shout out to Bill Cobb.
Shout out to Bill Cobb. He came out and said, sis, what we going to do about it? And him and Rhonda Hill Wilson and George Gossett said, this is what we going to do about it. And so they put together a committee, and then here we go. We are all out here getting this here thing done. And then we just talk about it. We got Tony Daniel. Y'all don't never see him, but that's our communications director. But he's my personal stylist. I don't know. My hair is brought to you by Tony. Okay? Everybody asks me about the hair and the makeup. I'm going to tell you that's Tony and Chloe, our office administrator and manager. We've got Miss Prussia McClendon. She only like you to know her real name, so I ain't gonna say it twice, but she phone banker galore, keeping me on top of my game, letting me know when I'm even just a little bit astray and can be viewed in any negative light. I see Perry Monastero. I mean, y'all want to know, you fundraise in the middle of a pandemic, you fundraising. And Perry done found new and ingenious ways to get out the, he reminded me there are two ways that people vote. They vote with their time and they vote with their dime. And Perry has been able to get all of that. He done been able to get butter from the duck baby, okay? That's what I'm going to say about that. The modern keeping us all on point, because I'm telling you, I miss all them calls, okay? And then, I've got to thank Eric White. So Eric is my brother from another mother, who has, he's had my back for more than 20 years, letting me, one of my mentors in the law, the brother of my heart, checking me at times that I didn't even know that I needed to be checked. And I appreciate him because, it's who's in your corner a lot of times that define who you are as an individual. And whether or not you have people in your life that you can listen to, that support you, and that tell you the real what, not just go along to get along. And my team is definitely that, but it starts with Eric. And then, I saved them for the end, but they are definitely not the least. And the reason for that is because these are the folks who really have been responsible for this campaign. So, there are two parts of the campaign. There's what's going on to manage these things and keep all of these balls in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what's going on to keep the field together. Because even the virtual office is a field. It's the virtual field office. So I have to thank, Uncle Hanif. That's who he didn't become to be known. Louis May, Uncle Hanif, Spinata on this thing. Just so y'all know who he is, who keeps me out there, makes me do all the things I don't want to do when I don't. Even when he tells me that I got a little bit too much bass in my voice. Okay, so you need your uncles out there to check you. And then you got Uncle Mike Tucker. You have been an invaluable resource inside and out. You done taught me the art of the deal, about what it is to compromise, to bend but not break, to be flexible but not immobile, and to be steadfast but not stuck. And it has been quite a ride and quite a joy. Without all of you, I really would not be here today. The support and the love and the questions and the answers, the guidance, the resources that you all have provided have been just amazing. All of you who have tuned in every day, we are over 100,000 individuals that we have reached in the course of these 10 weeks. So, because we went virtual on March 17th, Friday, March 17, 2020 was our first broadcast. We went officially virtual on March the 27th of 2020, having to close the campaign office entirely due to the pandemic. And I don't know about y'all, but from what I see, I have not seen a single campaign, not in Pennsylvania, but I ain't seen them nationally either, that have been able to turn on a dime and really make everything out of nothing. And that is all because of you, for keeping the momentum going. I want y'all to keep checking in. We're going to have all the curbside conversations. We're going to have all the things still going on. I need y'all to go to vote190.com. I need y'all to sign up and pledge to vote. I need y'all to call me on the phone. Call me at 267-291-4702. Call me now, 267-291-4702.
Attorney Patterson, one last thing I think you really need to get at, just in case you may have forgotten. Pick up that voting card, because people need to know where to go to vote.
I'm going to that last. I have the voting card. I'm going to that last. This is just confused, and then I got a call to action. Keep it together. 267-291-4702. Go to 267-291-4702. And you know what's there? We're going to be able to tell you about your polling location, because what you should have got, who's going there, was this in the mail. Now, you can't really see it too good because the light all in the way. I don't know. Help me. There you go. That's the light right there. So you should have gotten this in the mail. They went out on Tuesday. I told y'all last week. They went out on Tuesday to your registered home address where you are registered to vote. And on it, it will tell you what your zone is, because now we got zones for voting, okay? So if you zone 1 through 10 through 12 through 15, West Philly 9, 10, 11, whatever it is, it's on the card. But more importantly, it tells you exactly where you go to vote on June the 2nd, exactly where you go to vote on June the 2nd. Do not forget, the Committee of 70 starts with the ballot box drop-off. The ballot box drop-offs start tomorrow, every 2 hours with the hour in between, because they're going to be out there and policing this here thing and making sure we ain't stuffing no ballot boxes and that we're not illegally dropping these things off. In West Philly, we're going to see you at 5501 Cedar Avenue, out there in front of Boys Latin, 5501 Cedar Avenue, from 9 to 11. Don't go at 11:30. Because then you're going to have to go over to Bertram, okay? So don't go at 11:30. Don't get all confused. Be there between 9 and 11. The other thing is, I'm going to see y'all because we're going to be doing the food giveaway. But we ain't stopping just because, we done stopped with the lies. No, honey, we still going to be giving out the food because we still got food insecurities to solve. So we will see you here on Monday. Check the website and check the Facebook page, because there are going to be 4 different locations on Monday. We're going to bring them further out into the community. We've got some churches that are partnering with us, because I'll be, with the bullhorn out on the street and, shaking hands and virtually kissing babies. That's what I'm going to be doing, okay? So you'll see me out in the street. I'm gonna tell you, honk and wave, honk and wave. Tell them you support Danyl Patterson for 190. You need a street sign. Give us a call. You want to put a banner in the window. You need a lawn. Give us a call. We want to know where you are. Now, the other thing is we are phone banking. We're calling up until the last minute all the way through on June 2nd. We are still doing that up through June 2nd because we still got to keep calling because, people might have forgot. They might still be confused about what poll place they need to go to. So call us up at 267-291-4702. And then I'm going to catch you outside, as they say, because I'm going to be everywhere, all over the 190, all for the next 4 days, which is the reason that this is our last official live. Because, it was only an hour. This one, an hour and a half. They only an hour, but it takes me 2 hours to get ready for them because I actually research these things and let y'all know. And don't forget, this is still a campaign. So if you think that you have it in your heart to give me a hot 20 for 20, then I want you to go on over to vote190.com. Hit that donate button because at this point, every single cent counts. But can you think you can pledge 20 for 20? 20 for 2020. Then go on over to vote190.com. Hit the pledge to vote. Hit the donate button. Show us some love. We've shown you a lot. But it has been my pleasure. I am Danyl Patterson, candidate for state rep. I am here with our campaign consultant, our West Philly friend, Mr. Will Mega, and it has been a delight on this Feel Good Friday.
The pleasure's been all mine, and looking forward to a victory on Tuesday.
And then we can have a virtual victory party. We can have a Zoom with some champagne, and so all of y'all can join, okay? See, that way we don't even have to worry about the social distance space. We can have a Zoom party. We're gonna pop bottles virtually.
Let's do it.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Will.
Thanks for having me.
And we're going to see you for our third side conversations, but we're going to see you on June the 2nd. Thank you and goodbye. This is Danyl Patterson reminding you that we will do better together.